Something went weird there with the preview stream rather. I am, of course, Stephen Britton. This is Friday, November the 10th, the day before Remembrance Day, and I want to remind everybody before I go any further, take a moment tomorrow. Remember our fallen soldiers, the men and women who fought, died, and did all kinds of amazing things under incredibly terrifying circumstances to give us the freedom to peacefully disagree with each other. Without them, the world would be very different right now. So with that, I'm going to switch gears, and I gotta say, sometimes things just have to be talked about. This crossed my desk yesterday. I was absolutely stunned by it. I couldn't believe it. Now, the article itself that I'm going to talk about is 2 years old, but I was amazed when I saw it. So I don't know what to tell you other than I've got one word to describe it: ew. So if you have a queasy stomach, maybe pick a different time to watch this particular video. But here we go. Oh, this one's fun. The headline is written by, I'll come back to the headline in just a second here. But the author is Caitlin Aber. The date is November the 24th, 2015. And this is from womenshealthmagazine.com. And it is a feminist publication. And I'm going to add the link to the article in the description. I'm putting that in right now. So that link has now been added to the description. So once the video is up and everyone can see it, it'll be there. But in any case, the article is titled, headline, Feminist Hero Bakes Sourdough Bread Using Her Own Vaginal Yeast. Yes, you did hear me say that correctly. Feminist hero bakes sourdough bread using her own vaginal yeast. As I said, ew. The whole idea of this just makes my skin crawl. I don't understand why anybody would want to do this. I really don't. Because, and the author writes, I'll go into the text of it here. The author writes, in preparation for the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday, you're probably seeing a lot of self-help articles about managing stress, dealing with unpleasant family members, and, most importantly, making it through the day in one piece. So far, so good. And while there's no doubt that all of this advice is well-intentioned, sometimes, when the shit is hitting the fan and your uncle's being a sexist piece of garbage, why is it always your uncle? Why is your uncle being the sexist piece of garbage? You have to do something to regain control and remind yourself that you're a badass bitch who no one can fuck with. And there's no better way to do that than serving an asshole a slice of truly homemade bread, leavened with yeast from your own vagina. As I said, ew. Now, it is being set up, clearly this is being set up as a revenge piece. As a piece where the person is engaging in this because she wants to get back at somebody. Which is fine, but still, there's certain levels of ickiness, and I think this is at the higher end of icky. Just imagine the outrage if I suggested that men glaze donuts themselves with their own prostatic secretions. How about we call it that? Shout out to Corey Morgan who suggested this. Just imagine the outrage if that showed up in a men's magazine. But does such a recipe exist? Yes, it does, thanks to feminist blogger Zoe Stavry, who, after getting a pretty bad yeast infection, had the inspired idea to turn her discomfort into delicious baked goods. Waking up on Saturday with a familiar, itchy, burny fanny, I giggled to myself. Maybe I could make bread with that, Zoe writes on her blog. Another angry woman. And that ticked into, well, I've always wanted to try making my own sourdough anyway. And then fuck, would that even work? And then I got curious, and the next thing that happened was I was scraping white goop off a dildo into a bowl of flour mixed with water. Zoe's curious. Oh, I'm going to pause here. Look at the ad. Did you see the title? Ask a Hot Doc. Do I have to treat a yeast infection? Watch a hot doctor explain whether you have to treat a yeast infections or not. Okay, I thought feminism was all about not objectifying people. I thought it was all about women's equality. And when you see some of the manatees that are feminist, some of these blimps, these Goodyear blimps that walk down the road during slut walk, you have to ask yourself, what are they doing now saying things like post hot doctors and ask them about yeast infections? I think what this is the yeast infection is a smokescreen for the ability to look at a so-called hot doctor. Anyway, let's back to the article. Zoe's curiosity led not only to her creating her sourdough starter recipe, but also to pissing off a very disgusted group of people on the internet who believe that it is unhygienic and unsanitary. You know what? At this point, I don't really know. Most bodily secretions are pretty safe. However, Zoe contends that really yeast is yeast. And yeah, I will agree with Zoe there, but still, the whole idea of vaginal yeast sourdough is just like why? When you can get perfectly good yeast from the store, why would you have to provide it for yourself? It's like, this is on the same level as women who bake their placenta and then eat it after they've given birth. Why? Like, it's loaded with protein, sure, but yuck. Making sourdough starters entails encouraging stuff that's present in the flour and just sort of floating around in the air in your kitchen and on your utensils to grow, she writes. And that's what wild yeast is. Like all bread made with yeast, once it's cooked, it's not exactly going to go about colonizing your gut with yeast. The biggest risk with using Candida albicans for bread making is that it won't rise. Even though she didn't intend for her experiment to be any sort of feminist statement, yeah, right. Zoe also believes that it's the online outrage she was receiving about a recipe are a blatant form of misogyny. It probably doesn't matter that my sourdough may or may not contain any actual vaginal yeast, she writes. The very idea of it seems to horrify people more than I thought. I suppose it's similar socially constructed disgust. No, it is disgust. It is like, what are we going to do? Maybe you're going to make red paint with your own menstrual blood. You know, take a little bit of that blood, mix it with some white base, and there you go. You got beautiful red paint. Or maybe let's make brown paint with. Yeah, I'm not even going to go down that road. You can always make yellow paint. You know, like maybe we should have a Olympic event called Cursive Discharge. Big shout out to my friends at Screaming Halibut. Like, yuck. I mean, these are just like, bodily fluids are meant to be flushed. Or absorbed somehow. The very idea of it seems to horrify people more than I thought. I suppose it's a similar socially constructed disgust that leaves a whole bunch of people repulsed by the idea of licking a pussy. No comment. Even the mere idea of a tiny trace of pussy in a massive loaf of bread is sufficiently vile. You know, there's nothing disgusting about it. It's part of what it is. It's part of human anatomy. I get it. And really, a yeast infection is part of life for women. But I don't need you to share it with me. Thank you very much. True, there's no doubt that a certain type of man, definitely that uncle of yours. You see, we're back to the uncle, What makes you, why does that uncle, why is that uncle of yours, you're like your father's brother, why is he the misogynist? Why does it have to be him? Because, well, one reason is he's not a direct relative. He's the brother of your father, so therefore he's an asshole or something. I don't know. I've never really understood that. You got to blame someone, I guess. That's what it's all about from the left, isn't it? Laying blame where somewhere else. Would be disgusted by this recipe, which is why it's so important for every woman to keep it in her back pocket. Happy Thanksgiving. No. Just no. Absolutely no. Like I don't know what else to say at this point. But no. I don't understand it. I don't see why it is necessary. I don't see why anyone would even want to do this. As I said, just imagine the outrage if men were to glaze donuts themselves. Or, make icing on a cake. You get my meaning. So I'm going to leave it at that and just put this out there. I wanted to get this off my chest today because because it's just like wrong on multiple levels. But there you go. So if you like my show, if you want to see more of this, if you want me just to be more incredulous, send me more garbage, send me more stuff. Of course, comments are open. Am I outraged? No, I'm not really outraged. But this just shows you the level that feminism is moving to now. That's all I can say. So it's 10 after 10, November the 10th, of course. I'll be back on Monday for another one of these. Remember, there's Patreon. You can support my show. You can support me over on minds.com. I'm on Facebook at Steve Speaks Freely. I'm on Twitter, and you can find me on Twitter, Patreon, and minds.com with all the same handle, which is at SC Britain. And I'll talk to you Monday.